Right friends, welcome back to News Analysis. 13th week, India, Iran, Saudi Arabia. Here the basic question is, can India maintain delicate balance with Iran and Saudi Arabia, because Iran and Saudi Arabia are diametrically opposite in the politics of West Asia, and under these circumstances can India maintain delicate balance with both these countries? We are going to deliberate in detail in this news analysis. Please look into this slide. Iran, this is the country, Persian country, from Caspian Sea right up to Persian Gulf. On one side, Caspian Sea, and if you look at other side, the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. So, if you look at Saudi Arabia, one side Red Sea, other side Persian Gulf, and Saudi Arabia and Iran, these countries rich in fossil fuels, especially oil reserves. Saudi Arabia has got the second highest oil reserves in the world, and Iran has got one of the highest natural gas reserves in the world, and both the countries endowed with high natural resources, now competing for the supremacy in the geopolitics of West Asia. And Saudi Arabia is the leading Sunni group of countries, and Iran is leading Shia group of countries. And we are going to deliberate the present scenario with regard to relation between Saudi Arabia and other world countries, as well as Iran and other world countries. And if you look at Saudi Arabia, it is officially known as Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Arab state, popularly called in West Asia. These are Arab states. There is one Arab League is also there, and grouping of Arab countries where Arab is official language is known as Arab League, and Saudi Arabia is one of the Arab League countries, and this has got second largest proven oil reserves in the world, and it occupies a major portion of Arabian Peninsula, and as I have already told you, it has got coastline on one side Red Sea and on the other side Persian Gulf, and the population is around 3 crore, and it is leading the group of 6 nation GCC countries, Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC countries. It is leading GCC countries. GCC countries are Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and UAE, and almost all are prominently Sunni dominated countries. Except Bahrain, all other countries are Sunni dominated, but the ruler of Bahrain is also Sunni, though the majority population in Bahrain are of Shia sect. So, closely knit organization of Sunni ruled countries, that is Gulf Cooperation Council, that is GCC. This Saudi Arabia is heading this group, and at the same time Saudi Arabia is also heading 39 nation block of Islamic military alliance to fight terrorism. It is leading 39 nations bloc of Islamic military alliance to fight terrorism, and you can say in simple terms, it is a global leader for Sunni Muslim sect. And if you look at Iran, it is officially Islamic Republic of Iran, and it extends from Caspian Sea to Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman, and it has got one of the world's largest proven oil reserves. Not only that, its biggest asset is natural gas reserves. Population is around 8 crores, and it is popularly known for Islamic Revolution of 1979. Saudi Arabia from the beginning maintained good relations with the United States of America and West, whereas with Islamic Revolution of 1979, this Iran antagonized West and United States of America. You can say this is the global leader for Shia Muslim sect, and recently sanctions were lifted after the historic nuclear deal with the world powers, popularly known as P5+1, and it has not knitted any organization like the GCC, but it supports Shia militias in several countries with a view to protect Shia population. So, bluntly speaking, Saudi Arabia is acting as the leader of a Sunni sect of Islam, and Iran is acting as the leader of Shia sect of Islam, right? Under these circumstances, let us see the fundamental differences between Saudi Arabia and Iran. As I have already told you, Saudi Arabia is global leader for Sunni sect of Muslims, whereas Iran is global leader for Shia sect of Muslims. And Saudi Arabia leads the group of Sunni dominated GCC countries. Here all the rulers are Sunnis except Bahrain. All other countries are Sunni majority, but in Bahrain majority is Shias but ruler is Sunni. Anyhow, the Saudi Arabia is the leading GCC countries. Then if you look at Iran, it backs Shia militias to fight on behalf of Shia Muslim countries. Then if you look at Saudi Arabia, it maintained close relations with the United States of America and the West for the past several decades. And if you look at Iran, it antagonized the United States of America and West after 1979 revolution, and it used to call America the biggest enemy. And if you look at Yemen civil war, Saudi Arabia supports government forces in Yemen civil war, whereas this Iran is allegedly supporting Houthi rebels in Yemen because Houthi rebels are of Shia sect. And if you look at Syria civil war, the Saudi Arabia is supporting opposition forces because the government is ruled by Shia Alawite sect. And Iran is supporting the government forces because the ruler is the Shia Alawite sect. So the battle lines are clearly drawn between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Saudi Arabia is leading Sunni Muslim sect and Iran is leading Shia Muslim sect. Two countries are into civil war now. Yemen is into civil war. Thousands of people lost their lives. Syria is into civil war. Around 3 lakh people lost their lives. Millions of people displaced. This is because of murky geopolitics of West Asia. Under these circumstances, I am going to look at the relations of Saudi Arabia and the world, a perspective in recent times. In recent times, Saudi Arabia's clout with the USA, in overall terms you can say Saudi Arabia is slightly in downward trend. If you look at its relations with world countries, its clout with USA is reducing in recent times because United States of America's oil production almost doubled in 5 years. So its dependence on Saudi Arabia for oil reduced. Hence, 80 years of closely knit relations between these two countries are under strain now because United States of America is able to meet 70 to 80% of its requirements from its own production. That's why its dependence on Saudi Arabia reduced in recent times. Second is, Saudi Arabia is not happy with Western countries. When Western countries formulated historic nuclear deal with Iran and subsequently sanctions were lifted on Iran, this is not palatable for Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is facing allegations of funding IS fighters, though it denies these allegations. And another important aspect is its best friend Pakistan, and the relations between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan were also strained in recent times when Pakistan refused to send troops to fight Saudi-led coalition in Yemen. And Pakistan also reluctantly joined IMAFT, as we have just now discussed. What is meant by IMAFT? And another most important point is, as the fossil fuels like oil are under scanner due to global warming, Saudi Arabia is trying to diversify with entry into services and technology at the forefront. And if you look at Iran and the world, in recent times, Iran's prospects, or you can say relations with the world, increased because of a prominent historic nuclear deal. And now Iran is brimming with confidence after historic nuclear deal with the P5+1 countries and subsequent lifting of sanctions by the Western countries. Second is, several European countries are queuing up to seal business deals with Iran after the lifting of sanctions. Why? Because it became necessity for European countries, as several countries are either under recession or suffering from low growth rates. Then visit of President of Iran to Pakistan after a gap of 14 years assumed significance because Pakistan is the closest ally of Saudi Arabia till recent times. And another important point is first train with Chinese goods arrived at Tehran recently after traveling around 9,500 kilometers through Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan. Please look into this slide, and it signals the revival of Silk Road in modern times. Another important aspect is Iran is in strategic location but not Saudi Arabia to connect Central Asia as well as West Asia, and will also be the key player for the Chinese initiative of OBOR, One Belt One Road initiative of China. This will be the key country, not Saudi Arabia, and because of these reasons Iran is brimming with confidence. Right? And after looking at Saudi Arabia and the world in perspective as well as Iran and the world in perspective, let us look at the relations between India and Saudi Arabia. First point is, out of 7 million Indians staying in West Asia region, Saudi Arabia accounts for around 3 million, and hence several families in India are dependent on remittances. Most important point. Second is, bilateral trade with Saudi Arabia is around $40 billion, now slightly reduced because of a fall in oil prices, and it is one of the key countries for India's energy security. Third important point is, the country Saudi Arabia has got one of the largest sovereign wealth funds. What is meant by sovereign wealth fund? Sovereign wealth fund is the fund where the surplus, budget surplus will be diverted, and this money will be invested with diversification. And it has got one of the world's largest sovereign wealth funds, and good synergy can be established between both Saudi Arabia and India with regard to investment of sovereign wealth funds in India's infrastructure sector. Fourth one is, in recent times, both the countries stepped up cooperation in counter-terrorism and intelligence sharing. Then, unfortunate part between these two countries is alleged exploitation of Indian laborers. This is the main point of concern for India. Not only that, India is also worried about the alleged funding of Wahhabi groups across the world. And in India also, there is allegation that Saudi Arabia is funding Wahhabi groups. Wahhabis follow conservative Islam. So, these are the issues if you look at India and Saudi Arabia. And if you look at India and Iran, even during the times of economic sanctions by the West, India maintained reasonably good relations with Iran, and Iran is one of the largest importers of basmati rice from India for the past few years. At the same time, most important is, India is planning to develop Chabahar port, which will be the gateway to Central Asia. Please look into this slide. This Chabahar port is gateway to Central Asia, and not only Central Asia, it is gateway to Afghanistan, and at the same time, this assumed significance in view of the corridor being developed by China in Pakistan starting from Gwadar port. As Gwadar port is being developed by China, development of this Chabahar port by India assumed a lot of significance. Then third point is, India wants Indian firms to develop Farzat P natural gas field in Iran. Then Indian Petroleum Minister recently visited Iran and expressed intention to invest $20 billion in Iran, which include setting up of an SEZ also. And Iran has got second highest natural gas reserves in the world, and Iran will also add to India's energy security. And there are also talks with regard to Iran, Pakistan, India gas pipeline. So, if you look at the aspects of India, Saudi Arabia, India, Iran, both the countries are extremely important for us. And without going into the murky politics of West Asia, where some of the countries are into civil war, India should maintain strategic balance, delicate balance between both these countries. So, the final word is, India should maintain multi-directional West Asia policy, should not take sides. It should maintain equilibrium with caution. It should not involve in murky geopolitics of West Asia, concentrate more on economic and trade relations, and de-link terror from religion. So, with this in mind, India can have strategic relations, then balanced diplomatic relations with both the countries. And treading a balanced path is very much essential for India because of diametrically opposite positions of Saudi Arabia and Iran. Right friends, with this let us conclude this news analysis. Please do join for other modules. Have a nice day. Thank you.